who better to react to Game 7 of the World Series than John Franco, 22-year baseball career, Cincinnati, the Mets, the Houston Astros. The great John Franco joins us here on Big Board Sports the day after Game 7 of the World Series. John Franco, Roger Weiland in Albany, good morning.
Good morning, Roger. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Will I see you next Sunday?
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it, aren't you?
Yes, I am. It's very exciting, very humbling, very honored to be inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he will be here. Rennie LaRue is the founder of the Capital District Baseball Hall of Fame. Johnny, I'll be one of the master of ceremonies on that night. We look forward to meeting and greeting you for sure. And thank you for a quick phone call here. So, in terms of like great games and World Series games, where do you rank last night's Game 7, John?
Well, I'd say that probably the last 25, 30 years, that had to be up there and probably the best that I've seen and watched. Both teams did a great job. The whole series, the managers, the coaches, the players, the fans were great. It's unfortunately that one of those historic franchises had to lose and the other had to win, but that's the game of baseball, and it was great to see, the Cubs finally kick that ghost, that Billy Goat to the side, and they got a world championship.
Yeah, no more of that. That is for sure. And as I just put before you came on, this is such a young team, John. You look at their age group. I mean, 24 and younger. There's a lot of players that fall into that demo on that team. And if they stick together, and I think they will, the Cubs will probably go into next year being, and maybe Cleveland too. I mean, you could look at both those teams as being the favorites to get back to the World Series next year.
Yeah, they could be the favorite, but everybody picked the Mets to be the favorite this year too, and you don't even know what's going to happen along the way. Injuries occur, guys go to other organizations via free agency, the older players. But their core and their nucleus of the young players are there for both organizations. Theo Epstein, what he did in Boston and now what he's done in Chicago is a mastermind. His plan has come into works, and I think I heard you say he might be going right to Cooperstown, and he deserves to be there because he got these organizations, the Red Sox and the Cubs, their world championships that they died for years, and they finally accomplished that.
We are talking to the great John Franco, who, by the way, Met fans absolutely love and adore, and had a great run there. 1984 to 2005. Is that your span of your MLB career, John?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and a great run. Cincinnati Mets, Astros will be in town to be inducted into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame next weekend over at the Hilton Garden Inn in Troy, and I look forward to meeting John and being a part of that. Hey, I got to ask you about the pitching and going on short rest. I mean, as a pitcher, as a relief pitcher, but even start with Corey Kluber last night. He gives up the home run right away. Just didn't look like he had his nasty, filthy stuff that we saw in the prior games. But what's it like for a guy like Corey Kluber, almost like a rubber arm, John, but he was pitching for the second time in this series on short rest and pitching for the third game. Pitched game 1, game 4, and then game 7. That's asking a lot, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Starting pitchers are like, they're so used to being routines, and he was at his routine usually every 5 days. But the second time, his second start after 3 days, he was still pretty sharp. His release point, his arm angle, his elbows wasn't dropping as low as they were last night, and you could see that he didn't have the sharpness and the command and location that he did the previous 2 outings. But you got to tip your hat to him. He went out there and he battled, tried to keep his team in the game. And Terry came out, took him out after he did his job, and the bullpen came in. And the same could be said for Andrew Miller and Chapman and all the relievers that pitched almost every game. Those guys left their heart and soul out there. I just think that they got overworked on both sides, and you saw it in Miller last night. You saw it in Chapman last night. But the end result is the team that made the least errors and scored the most runs is the one that won last night.
John, you go back to Game 6, and I got to ask you this question. I mean, now Joe Madden, obviously a hero today, and they're celebrating in Chicago, and I think Joe's a great manager, but I did question him in Game 6 when he went to Chapman with a 5-run lead and then left him in the game into the night, threw 20 pitches. Day before, I think he was at 42. And then last night he comes in and clearly just didn't have it and gives up the home run to Rajai Davis that ties the game. Had the Cleveland Indians won that game, we would be really questioning the move by Madden there and he obviously the day before John had no trust in his bullpen, right? I mean,
well, I'm sure he had his reason. He probably thought that was the most important time of the game to bring Chapman in. But there were a couple of things in this series that he did made you scratch your head, and I'm sure he had his reason, and that's why Joe's such a good manager. He trusts his players. He trusts his gut in those situations. When you brought Chapman in, I'm sure everybody was saying, why is he bringing him in, with a 5-run lead, save him. Last night in the 8th inning when they had Baez bunting to try to squeeze with a man on third with 1 out.
That made no sense to me, John. Can you explain that to me, John Franco? That made no sense to me.
I figured it out myself after the kid just hit a 400-foot home run the previous at bat. And then also last night too, with taking out Hendricks when he had a 5-1 lead with 2 outs and going into the 5th, I believe it was. And he brought, I believe, Lester in. I don't think he was struggling. He didn't have any stressful innings. But, that's why he gets paid the big bucks to manage the Chicago Cubs. He has his reasons, and he thought the timing was right. All of us could sit here and scratch our head and be Monday morning quarterbacks and think, why did he do that? He went against the traditional ways and so on and so forth. But it kind of worked out for him, so... Like you said, if they would have lost, we'd be having a different conversation today.
Was that the greatest game you've seen World Series? You personally?
It was very, very exciting. I mean, Terry Francona and I were teammates in Cincinnati, so part of me was rooting for him, and part of me was rooting for the Cubs because I'm a National League guy, and the Cubs have that history, and Chicago's probably, besides New York City, it's probably the greatest baseball city in the country. So, and those fans are just unbelievable, supportive of their team year in and year out. When I used to go into Chicago and they'd have 39,000 people sold out on a 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. You wonder if there's anybody work around here, but they're so supportive and they support their team, and new ownership that went in there has done a great job supporting Theo's theory and giving him what he needed, and it's just happy. It's great for the city of Chicago.
Well, it's interesting you bring up your relationship with Terry Francona, because you read and listen to players in Cleveland that play for Terry Francona, and even Andrew Miller, who came over obviously from the Yankees. They just rave about playing for Tito. Yeah,
he's as a former teammate of mine and one of the funniest human beings I've ever been around. Knows the game, very sharp, and it just goes to show you, it proves, when he was in Boston, they won a World Series, and he got a team, I guess, no one expected Cleveland to be there this year, and they had a lot of injuries with their starting pitcher and pitching, but he found a way to get the best out of his players, and that's why he's up there as, the top 3 managers in the game.
We're reacting to Game 7 of the World Series, won by the Cubs in 10 innings, and a little bit of everything last night, and ratings were phenomenal with 25 rating, and the Game 7 of the NBA Finals 18 rating, so a little comparison there. John, do you have a written-out speech for next Sunday? How are you going to handle this?
I usually don't write my speeches out. I speak from the heart. I feel when I write things down, I kind of get lost, off track a little bit, but I'll scribble a couple of things down just to remind myself what I want to say, and then usually speak from the heart. That's the best way to get my point across and to thank everyone along the way. I'm sure I might forget someone here and there, but all in all, it's been a great ride. I'm enjoying retirement. I would like to get back into the game somehow. I'm still working with the Mets as they're one of their club ambassadors. I go to spring training and work with some of the young pitchers in the minor leagues and occasionally in the big leagues. But yeah, it's been a great ride, and I just love the game of baseball and what it's given me, and given me the opportunity to do and places to go and see and meet all kinds of great people from all over the country, all over the world, and giving my family a great opportunity. And now I'm going through that with my son. My son plays minor league baseball for Chicago White Sox, so I go and kind of enjoy watching him play a little bit, and just enjoying retirement. And hopefully the phone will ring and somebody will need a old left-handed relief pitcher for some experience and help some guys out.
Yeah, you would be perfect. I will ask you about the Mets before I let you go, but just more on your career. Is there? I mean, you had a great career. Is there a couple of moments that I don't want to steal your thunder for next weekend for a packed house that will be there to hear what you have to say? But are there a couple of moments that you would single out?
Well, I mean, obviously, in my career, just getting an opportunity to get drafted, and I'm very grateful for the Los Angeles Dodgers for taking a chance on me, giving me an opportunity. And then getting traded to Cincinnati and being playing for Pete Rose, I thought that was a great experience for me. Pete was a great manager, great guy, and I met some great guys along the way there and played with. And then getting traded to the Mets and making an all-star team here and there, and then the 2000 run that we had, striking out Barry Bonds in Game 2, I believe it was, to end the game, and then facing him a couple of days later and striking him out again. Those are some of my highlights that I can think of off the top of my head, but there have been so many good days that I just can't put them all down, and there's been some bad days that you still remember, and the home runs you gave up, but you forget them real fast.
And you did have a special bond, didn't you, with the fans of New York?
Well, born and raised here, so I'm a New York's child. I've been
St. John's University.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, St. John's University. I believe Coach Joe Russo was inducted into the Hall of Fame last year from St. John's.
He was indeed.
And Frank Viola also. So Frank and I were teammates at St. John's for 3 years, and then later on teammates with the Mets. So. Being born and raised here and just giving back to the community and working along with the police department, fire department, and various charities here in the city, and giving back and always willing to help out. And not too many guys could say that they grew up as a Met fan and they played for the Mets for 15 years. That's something that I always wished I could have done. When I was in Cincinnati, I was very jealous of Paul O'Neill and Barry Larkin and Buddy Bell because those guys are from Cincinnati and playing for Cincinnati. And then a couple years later, I got traded to New York, and I was very happy feeling what those guys I went through to play for their hometown, and now I was playing for my hometown.
Hey, John, what's your thoughts on the Mets, their season? So many injuries to their starting pitching. I mean, I thought Terry Collins overall did a really good job just piecing it together with all those injuries they had. Do you think this organization, this team is on the right track? Can they come back next year and have a big season, especially if they get those young arms of theirs healthy? Well,
that's the key question. Keep everybody healthy. Is Matt Harvey going to come back and be healthy? DeGrom had arm surgery. Is he going to be healthy? Steven Matz, again, had surgery in his young career, second time, third time. Are those guys going to be healthy? Syndergaard did a great job. The guy that is under the radar who's been consistent year in, year out is Bartolo Colon. So are they going to sign him back? Unfortunately, there was an incident with Jeremy Familia that domestic violence a couple of days ago. Is he going to be suspended for how long? So there's a lot of ifs. Is David Wright going to come back? And is Duda going to come back? So I thought Terry did a great job piecing and the guys together. The pitching staff, unfortunately, got hurt. I'd like to see them maybe add another guy or two to the bullpen to help Familia out. Cut the game a little shorter, like you can see how the Indians did it. Their starters go 5 or 6, and then they got that 3-headed monster out there, and those guys did a great job all year. And you can think about the Cincinnati Reds in 1990 when they won the World Series, how they had the Nasty Boys and how Lou Piniella managed his bullpen that year. So you always want to be strong at the back end, but starting pitching is going to win games for you. And if David Wright comes back healthy and Lucas Duda, then they should be all right. I mean, I'm sure there's some question marks behind home plate about catching and who's going to be the everyday center fielder. Is Cespedes going to sign back? So There's a lot of questions that have to be answered, and I believe today is the day that guys can file for free agency and organizations can start making their moves here and there on players. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think all in all, if the pitching staff stays healthy, there's no reason why they can be in the thick of things next year.
John Franco, we'll see you next Sunday when you make your way to the Capital Region to be inducted into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. Thanks for a few minutes here the day after Game 7 of the World Series.
Well, thanks for having me. I'll see you next week, Rob.
You got it. Thank you, John. John Franco, the great John Franco, 15 years with the Mets, played with the Reds,
what a legend.
Played with the Astros, absolute legend. Adored, loved by New York fans. As he said, he's born and raised there. He went to St. John's University. He is New York. Right there, that guy is New York.
Top 5 all-time saves in Major League Baseball history, and the most saves in MLB history for a left-hander.
Yeah, and who better to get on the program the day after with all the pitching stuff going on
That's big.
than John Franco. And we are running way over. But you know
John
what?
Franco.
For John Franco to be on our program the morning after Game 7 of the World Series, we will deal with being way over.